Hi guys, Ruth here from Bell 10 Gifts. Welcome once again to the crafting Chez and again to my garage, all the glamorous locations. I'm here today to show you how to make one of these, which is a needle felted Christmas tree. These make great gifts or great tags to go on gifts, or they're even great if you want to put them onto the Christmas tree itself. It's kind of a meta thing going on there. Now these are very similar to what I made last time, which is this here, which is a Rudolph. They use a lot of the same techniques, and a lot of the things I'm going to be showing you from now on will be based around the same sort of idea, which takes a ball. There's a video down in the description on how to make the balls, and takes that and just changes it into something a little bit more complicated. Now, if you haven't seen the video already, definitely click on that ball video if you want to felt along with me today. If not, just carry on to the video. Okay, so I've swapped the cameras. Please excuse the lighting effect. I'm being underlit by my downlight. Oh well. So what we've got today to use are, as always, our finger protectors, because nobody likes getting stabbed. Some scissors, because we'll probably need them and I usually don't have them, so I have them just in case. A selection of needle felting needles. I have got a very fine one, medium fine one, and reasonably thick one. I find that using the generic needles works really well for me. They're cheaper, so if I break them it's not too much of a problem, and they're really easy to get hold of. I do sell them on the website, just put that in there, link down below. So we're also going to be using some beads. I've got some little gold ones and some silver ones. I've also got a needle with some metallic thread. You don't need to use metallic thread. I'm personally using it because I quite like the shiny bit, and you can make it part of your design. And this is what we're going to be using for attaching our beads, and also for doing a hanging loop at the top so that we can hang our decoration. So you'll want your thread to be reasonably long. I'd probably say I'm using it probably about 1 metre. It's folded double just because you need the extra thickness. I've got a couple of beads to go on top. I don't know which one I'm going to use yet. I've got a purple star because I like to have a star, and I was also lucky enough, I'm not sure if it's focusing on there. See if we can focus. I found this little bead that's a little angel. I thought it might be cute, so we'll see how that goes. So put that down there. Focus back. And most importantly, we have got our wool fibre. Now I'm using some Corriedale broken tops. Is it broken tops? No, it's carded, sorry. I'm using some Corriedale carded fibre, and this is in, I think it's conifer, which is quite handy. And that's going to be the main body of our Christmas tree. And then I've got some dark brown, which is just a natural dark brown. And you can normally tell that because it's got bits of grass in it. So we'll pick those out later. Right, so what we want to do first is we want to create that ball that we're going to shape into the cone. So we're not going to need all this fibre. I'm going to use just a length of it. And much like with Rudolph, the amount that we need is kind of like, once it's been torn apart, let me just tear this apart. I want to get it nice and messy. It's kind of like a handful worth. Once you've torn it apart, it'll have a bit more air in it, so it'll expand. So once we've got that, I think I could probably do with a bit more. Now with needle felting, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's always easier to add fibre afterwards than it is to take it away. So don't worry if you start too small and you haven't got enough fibre. You can always add more on and build up until you get your decoration to the size you want. So I'm going to start with about this much, which is, there we go, just kind of filling my palms. Again, you can change the amount, have more, have less, it's up to you. I'm going to move some bits out of the way for now. Okay, pop on your finger protectors because we want to protect our fingers. Again, I'm not using a felting pad for this, don't worry too much. We're going to be stabbing into the ball itself, so if you had it on a felting pad you might actually find that that would flatten it. Just because the urge is to lay it down against the pad and stab into the pad, at which point you'd be flattening from above and it would be attaching itself to the pad. We don't want that. So just pinching it ever so lightly between finger and thumb, and then choose your needle. I'm going to start with the medium, see how that goes. No, Let's try the big one. Okay, we're going to try our big needle. And we're going to make a ball out of this. There is a video, the link's down below, on how to make balls. So I'm going to fast forward through this. All I'll say is that you just stab. Imagine you've got yourself a ball and you're stabbing with your needle always pointing towards the centre of that ball. So your needle angle is going to be changing as you work so that it is always pointing towards that centre. And we're just going to keep going, keep rotating and keep stabbing until it starts to form a nice ball that's holding itself together, and then we're going to try changing it into a cone. So I'm just going to fast forward and I will be back in a minute. Okay, so we've got ourselves here a basic needle felted ball. It's not particularly smooth, but it's generally roundish, which is fine for this because we're going to be shaping it again in a minute. Now, if you see when I squish, my fingers can pretty much touch each other through the ball. I can really get a decent squish on with this. This is great. It's starting to hold together. It's got its shape and it's still really pliable, so I can change this into whatever shape I want. So the next step is going to be to define the base, because we want to decide the shape and size of our base. Now this is the bit where you can decide how big your Christmas tree is going to be. If you wanted to have a short roundish one, if you wanted to have a very tall thin one, it's all up to you. But yeah, it's this point where you can decide. So I'm just going to go for just kind of like a medium sized one, and I'm going to start by just needle felting using the same needle, and I'm just outlining a circle. Now the diameter of this circle is going to be the diameter of your Christmas tree. Don't worry at this stage if you think, oh gosh, that's not big enough, I want to make it bigger. So what I'm going to do is just stab a little bit more outside. If you wanted to make it smaller, just stab inside. And I'm just going to keep going until you can start to see the outer edge of that circle. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is within that circle that we've just defined, I'm going to go around the outside edge and just define that circle. Once it's defined, what we're going to do is stab just within that circle, and we're going to stab at a 90-degree angle. Now the reason we use a 90-degree angle is because we want a flat plane. So this section here, at the moment you can see there's a bit of a bulge. This is the bit we're going to aim for, and we're going to stab at it this angle, 90-degree angle, or straight down if you wanted to have it this way. And what this does is it just flattens everything down and gives you that flat base that you're after. Now do this quite close together, your stabs, reasonably lightly. We don't need to stab too deeply. We're shaping it, but we're just flattening it, so we don't need to change the whole shape. If you stab too strongly, then you could end up with like a concave centre, and we don't want that. So there we go, we've kind of flattened that, if you can see. So I've got a flat bit. That's going to be our bottom. Now what we want to do is create a cone shape. Now if you picture it in your mind's eye, we've got the flat base here, so the point is going to be up here. Now as with the other shapes that we create, if you're creating a sphere, a ball, you're aiming for that central point right in the centre of your ball. So whenever you stab, your needle will be changing direction so that the point is always aimed towards that central point. Now because we're making a cone shape, what you have to imagine is that there is a central point right in the middle. So if this is the middle of your base, there'll be a central point, and that line will go all the way through your shape right to the top. So that line will go all the way from the middle all the way up to the top of your tree. To create the cone shape, our needle has to be at a right angle to the plane that we wish to create. So if we're making a cone, it's going to be this shape here. So if you've got that shape there, this bit here would be the flat plane you're trying to create. You would have to go at a 90-degree angle. Let me try from this side. So if you're trying to create that line there, your needle has to come from a 90-degree angle to that flat plane. Only because it's a cone, so we're working all the way around, you'll have to be doing that angle, so in this case this angle here, and just keep rotating the ball as was, with your flat piece, your base facing towards you. Keep rotating just on that axis, and notice the needle is staying in the same angle. And what this is going to do is this is going to create that cone shape by stabbing all these fibres in just in that angle. Hope that makes sense. Yep, what we're going to do is we're going to work round, just stabbing, keep going, and for this you just have to keep your needle in the same place. You don't have to worry about rotating it and all that sort of thing. Just keep it in the same place, and you're stabbing from the point at the top all the way down to the base. I'm glad I'm wearing my finger protectors because the needle's coming through. I'm not sure if you can see that there. So yeah, definitely recommend wearing your finger protectors. Now at this point, if you had one, you could have this on a felting pad, but as I haven't got mine with me at the minute, I'm just going to be doing it here on the base. Just stab away from the base and your fingers. Okay, so you can start to see now it taking shape, where it's getting pointier towards the top, still wide at the bottom. Now because we're stabbing and everything was quite loose, you'll see that the base is starting to get a little bit concaved. Don't worry about that, we can always bring this in. What you can try doing is turning it round so your base is pointing away from you, and continue stabbing with your needle at the same angle, so a right angle to the line you want to create, and stab from the bottom towards the top. And what this will do is help bring the fibres up and away from the base, and that gives you sort of less bagginess at the bum, effectively. Now once you've gone round a couple of times, take a look at your overall shape, and it's now that you're going to start being a little bit more targeted with your stabbing. What we're going to be doing is just aiming more for the bits that are sticking out. So I've turned it around again so the base is towards me, and I'm just going to look for any bits that are sticking out more than others, any lumpy bits, and those are the bits I'm going to be aiming for this time round. Now you can also find that if you stab closer together, the closer together you stab, the more you'll bring down the level of that area. So if you see here, I'm going to stab quite close together in just a bit of a circle almost, and see how that's really brought it down there. There's a real sort of dent in the side. Now if you do that over the whole thing, again making sure you keep your angle at a 90-degree angle to the line you want to create, then that will really bring your Christmas tree in and start to thicken it up and firm it up for you. Okay, so again this is starting to look a lot more Christmas tree shaped. I'm really getting a concave base here, so what I'm going to do is go over the bottom part of this and to start to felt it all together, and you'll find once it starts felting and getting firmer that it's easier to add bits to it and felt bits together. So once this has started to turn, which it has, it's going to become a lot easier to go over bits and get them to stick together. Now again, because I'm doing this as a base, I'm stabbing at a 90-degree angle to where I want the base to be. And if you work right up to the edges for this, don't worry if it's making the base a lot wider, because we're going to be stabbing down around the edge and bringing it back into shape. This is just to make sure it's nice and firmly felted so that the other fiber's got something to connect to. Okay, so that's flattened that down, and say it has brought the outside edge out quite a bit, so I'm going to go around that now at a 90-degree angle, keep rotating it, And this is going to give us a nice sharp edge. So if you look from the side, you can see I'm stabbing at a 90-degree angle right around the edge, and it's not going to affect the shape too much because we keep rotating, which is what you need to do. Remember, the point of your needle is always aiming towards that central point. But we've got more of a cone shape now, and the base is a lot firmer. We'll probably have to go over that another couple of times just to make sure everything's nice and secure, but it's starting to get there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the whole thing again and really bring this top in by focusing our stabbing again at the same angle there, 90-degree angle to the line we want to create, to really bring in that shape, and then go over the whole thing until we're happy. Okay, so the Christmas tree is really starting to get there. Again, the point at the end is still quite fluffy, so we're going to go over that. Also going to go over the base here and firm that up a bit, because we are going to be adding something to the base, so we want it to be nice and firm. Now if you find that your tree is getting too small for your liking, don't worry, keep going until it's nice and firm and ready to add on to, and then once that's done you can always add more fibre on top. Now you don't want to add it too soon, this extra fibre, because if you do, it's not going to have a firm base to attach to, and we want it to have a nice firm base so that you don't have to keep felting through the new fibre to felt the old fibre, because you'll need to stab deeper then, which again will change the shape of your tree. So what we're going to do is get this nice and firm, decide if we want to add any more fibre on. I'll show you how to do that just in case you decide you do, and then we'll go from there. Oh, you may find you need to alternate between stabbing the base and stabbing the sides, just so that it builds up and strengthens. Now my tree is starting to go a little bit skew with. Don't worry too much about that. We're just going to keep working on it until we're happy with the overall shape. So in my case, you can see it's quite a wide curve there and more upright on this side, so I'm going to stab on this side to take it over a little. Reminds me a bit of the sorting hat from Harry Potter, which is also something you could make using this technique if you wanted. Okay, so we've got our dome shape. I've gone over the base so it's nice and secure and not too squishy, which is what we want. If you wanted to add some more fibre to this, if you thought that it wasn't big enough, I'm going to show you on my case on the base here, because I don't want to change the shape too much above. So if you wanted to add more fibre, you could do this all over. So not just to the base, you could lay it wherever you wanted, just over the whole thing, and then you would just stab it into place. As I say, I'm going to add mine to the base. So I'm just taking the fibre, mess it up again. The messier the fibre, the smoother the finish you get. You want your fibres going in lots of different directions, and this way when you stab one in, it's going to be connecting with all the others. If they're all going in one direction, so like your fingers, if they're all going in this direction, when you stab into them, you're going to be pushing the fibres apart, and you end up with those valleys that you don't want. So get it nice and messy, lay it onto your shape where you want it. And because what we're doing is what I refer to as patching, we're going to go around the outside edge first, and the reason we do this is that we want to stop the fibres from being pulled in to the centre point where we're stabbing. So if I was just going to stab straight in the middle here, what would happen is all the fibres get pushed in here and pulled in from the outer edges, and you'd end up with just a big wodge of fibre right in the middle, which is something we don't want. So stab around the outside edge first. And what this does is it fixes everything into place so that when you stab in the middle, it's just going to pull against where you've already stabbed, and it's not going to draw it all in. It's just going to lay nice and flat, which is what we want. So in this case I've used quite a big wodge of fibre. You could work with smaller amounts if you wanted to. Okay, I'm just stabbing. I'm not stabbing too deeply because we're not doing this to change the shape, we're just doing it to attach. So I'm only stabbing in sort of a small amount of the needle there, just kind of lightly over the whole thing, and I'm stabbing quite quickly rather than taking it slow, because when you do it slow you'll end up pushing the fibres deeper in and connecting to more of the other fibres, and you'll end up with a more defined felt, and we don't really need that. We're just adding the fibre on top. Good. So you can start to see from the side, that's the bit I haven't yet felted, that's the bit I had, so it's nice and flat and even. And again, because this is the flat base that I'm adding the fibre to, I'm doing it at a 90-degree angle to the bit I want to achieve, which is the base. So 90-degree angle, there you go, and that helps to give you that flat surface. Now just look over the whole thing and search for anything that's sticking up more than others. Please ignore the noise in the background, that's just Dad jet washing the barbecue, as you do. Okay, so we've made our cone shape, we've added our extra fibre to it. Around the edge I've got a few bits there, so I'm just going to go into those and just make sure they're all felted. Now once you've got everything attached like I have here, we need to add the base to the Christmas tree, so we're going to be adding a different coloured fibre, and the fibre we're using today for that is going to be the natural dark brown. If you, like me, find that you've got this edge where you've added your new fibre, don't worry, just stab to either side of it like we did before. Really catch those loose edges and bring them out to the end there, just to kind of hide it. If you find you still have like a line where you've added your fibre, what you can do is really carefully with your needle just catch the fibres really gently and just drag a few of them from the new bit that you've done, that you've added. Just drag them and then stab them a little bit further on. So if this is where my line is here, I'll catch the fibres and I'll stab it round here, and that's helping to just kind of connect the two sections together and just to hide where the join is. So, as I say, I've got my shape here. You could go a lot smoother with this. You could keep felting until it was really dense if you wanted to. I quite like having a bit of the texture, a bit of the shape movement to it, having it a little bit bulgy in places, just because Christmas trees aren't a perfect cone. So, oh, bumpy bit. Okay. We're going to be adding some dark brown fibre. Now we don't need all of this, again less is more, so I'm just taking a strip about so large and I'm going to mess it up again. You don't really need to mess it up for this one. I could have just rolled it round because you're not going to see much of it, but I thought do it properly. So getting those fibres going all over the place, just picking out any bits of vegetable matter. And what we're going to do is in the centre of your tree, we're just going to lay that section of fibre, and we're going to stab a couple of times right in the centre, just so that it holds in place and we can get our fingers out of the way. Now what we're going to do is just catch really gently with the edge of the needle. We don't want to put any pressure on the side of your needle because it can snap or bend. We're just going to catch those loose bits and we're just going to stab them into the middle to start off with. And the reason we're doing this is I just want to bring the fibre together into kind of like a ball shape before I start attaching them to the tree itself. So we're just bringing them in. And you can see from the side there, they're starting to ball up in the centre. You want to stab just deep enough that the fibres are actually being attached to the tree. Now once you've got them and they're starting to form a bit of a ball, we want to define the outside edge of this. This is going to be the tree trunk, so it just needs to be sort of like a circular section, like a tube section in the middle. So I'm going to choose where I want it to start, how big I want it to be, by just thinking how deep I want to go here. I'm just going to start there, and then I'm going to start stabbing round the outside edge. Keep rotating. We're just going to be stabbing just the edge of the brown fibre down. Okay, and we're just going to work our way around there until it's all connected. Now this seems quite big, so I'm going to go in a little bit. So I'm going to come in from an angle. Can you see that? So 45-degree angle. I'm just going to catch the bit where it joins the brown there and just push it inwards towards the centre, and that's just pushing the whole thing in, just making it a little bit narrower. Okay, so now that's starting to find the outside edge. We just need to bring this under control. So I'm going to stab in the middle again, catch the fibres and bring them into the middle. And what this is going to be doing is starting to felt it into a big ball. And much like when we created the ball for the tree itself, we want to create that basic shape first and then shape from there once all the fibres are starting to interconnect. Now I can feel this needle isn't going in properly, so I'm going to swap it for a thinner one. No, not that one. There we go. And you can tell that it's working when you can feel it smoothly going into the fibre and still catching it. Keep rotating. Now because we've been pushing from above, it's been squishing everything out at the sides. So what I'm going to do now is coming in, because we're going to be creating this tube section, I'm going to stab at a 90-degree angle because we just want it to come down straight. So with the cone we were coming in at 45-degree angle, is it? Something like that, to create this point here. With this we just want it to be straight, so I'm going to come in from a 90-degree angle here, just stabbing up and down and then rotating the trunk just to create that nice curved section. Okay, so we've created that nice bit there. We do have a lumpy end, so we're going to flatten that, same as we did for the base of the tree, 90-degree angle, so we want this bit to be flat, so we're stabbing from here, and we're just going to stab all over that circle end a bit there. Now again, that's pushing this section here out, so we can just stab just to bring that in. Now you can spend as much time on this bit as you like, just to get it how you want it. Again, as smooth as you like it to be. Aim for just the sections that are sticking out more than others, any loose bits of fibre, just until it's nice and firm. Okay, so we've got our basic tree shape now. So next part is to decorate. For this I'm going to be using some of this, which is, you can just about see, needle and thread, and this is metallic silver thread. You can use anything, so if you've got some sewing cottons you wanted to use, sewing silks, metallic threads, whatever you like and that goes with your colour scheme. Also going to be using some gold and silver beads, and I've decided to use this little guy, which is a plastic star shaped bead. Now I think I got these from Hobbycraft quite a long while ago, but there's bound to be stuff similar to this that you can get hold of. I think maybe the Range, Hobbycraft, or even the Works sometimes have things like this. Now to attach the beads, what we first need to do is attach the thread to our felted Christmas tree. To do that I'm going to start halfway up the tree, bring the needle up and out of the top of the tree. So there we go, I'm just going to keep pulling the thread until the ends of it are inside the tree. Go, just keep pulling. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to hide the ends of the thread without having to actually cut them off. Okay, so that's inside. We're going to now do a few stitches right at the top of the tree at the point, and I'm pinching the end of the tree just so that the ends don't come out of the thread from inside the tree there. And I'm going to do a couple of stitches. Don't worry too much about this being a little bit messy, because we're going to hide that with the star-shaped bead. So there we go. I'm going to give that a good old tug so it's nice and secure. This is where we're also going to be adding our hanging loop. So I'm going to do that first. Now that I know this is secure, what I'm going to do is take my star bead, thread it onto the cotton there. Actually, I'm going to turn that the other way because we don't really want an inverted star on top of our Christmas tree. There we go, so that's where we want it. Now I'm just going to sew from beneath through the tree and up through the star again. It means that there is going to be a piece of silver thread that's going to be showing, but I think that's worth doing just so that the bead can't come off. So there we go, the bead's nice and firmly secured. I'm now going to wrap the thread around 3 of my fingers and bring it down, back through the star-shaped bead, and pull. Make sure that your threads are together if you've doubled them up. So there we go, so we've got, this is going to be our hanging loop on my fingers. So I'm going to keep my fingers in there. It's a little bit fiddly, but it's worth it just so you don't lose that loop. And I'm going to do a couple of stitches again just into the top of the Christmas tree here. There we go, pulling that tight. Now we should be able to release our fingers without losing the loop. I'm just going to do one more stitch there. Now not only is our hanging tag attached as well as the bead for the top, but our thread is nice and secure for us to add the rest of our beads down the side of the tree. So I'm just going to straighten this out. The terrible thing about this metallic thread is that it tends to knot up and just wants to go all kinky, and we don't want that. No kinky thread. So we have got our thread there. I'm just going to do a little stitch and then come back out, and that just leaves a little line of silver there if you can see it. Now I'm using my silver thread as actually part of the design. If you don't want to, you don't have to, you can just sew through the tree, add your bead and then go back through the tree so that your thread's hidden, but I actually quite like the silver thread showing. I'm now going to pour out some of my gold beads. Hope they don't roll away. Yeah. Oh well. And some of the silver beads. Yep. Okay, I'm going to start with a gold bead. This is a fiddly bit, but hey, we're going to add that on. You can take as long as you want to do this. If you wanted to, you could even stick on some little gems and things to save yourself sewing. I just find it easier to sew them on. So I've got one there. I'm just going to leave a little gap, do a little stitch. Make sure your threads pulled evenly. And I'm going to add a silver bead. Little stitch to hold the bead in place. And I'm just going to repeat this across the whole of the tree. I'm working my way down in a spiral shape, and I'm trying to keep my beads evenly placed so they're equal distance apart if I can. It's going to take a while, so I'm just going to speed it up and I will see you back here in a couple of minutes. so we've finished adding the beads. I've got this piece of thread attached to my needle still, which I need to get rid of. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick little stitch again just by the bead, just to make sure that the thread is nice and secure, and then we're just going to do the opposite of what we did when we kind of cast on our thread, which is just to take my needle and just to go up through the tree, come out about halfway up and just pull the thread through, and then I'm just going to pull, just put a bit of tension on that thread, and with my scissors I'm going to cut as close to the tree as I can. And once you cut off your excess thread, you're left with this, which is your finished Christmas tree. Now I think it's turned out quite well, and as I said before, you can use whatever different coloured beads you like. You can make several all in one go, and then everybody in the family can decorate their own. And I love about this that each one is unique and different, just because of the way you felt. It's very tricky to get things precisely the same, so I like that. It drives some people a little bit balmy, but yeah, it's nice to have things that are unique, especially this time of the year to go on the tree. Now if you've enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, that really helps me out. And you can also pop down any comments or questions, or if you just want to say hi, just down there in the comment section. And if you've enjoyed the video and you don't want to miss out on future videos, be sure to click on that subscribe button and that bell icon, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.